Hi, this is Simon Obstall and welcome to this unusual experiment. Now, I'm very often asked to show the full extent of my workings on a project, and I thought I would do it with this particular example, which is a text to smoke tutorial. So obviously I've done quite a few test versions of this, but I haven't yet quite fully worked out how it's going to work, and I thought I'd show you in this video. And I'm going to leave in all the mistakes and wrong turns and confusions and all the rest of it, just so you can see how chaotic everything is behind the scenes. So let's get going. So I'm going to set up my project this way: 1920 1080, 25 frames a second and a duration of 10 seconds. And the first thing I want to do is grab my text tool and type the text that I'm going to turn into smoke. And I'll come back when that's done. So here's my text. Actually, I need to reduce the line spacing a bit, I think, like that. Maybe increase the size even more, like this. I just, for the purpose of this tutorial, I want some nice big text, but really you can do whatever you want with the text. So let's start with this. So my theory about this was that instead of trying to sort of dissolve transition between the text and some particle smoke, for example from the library or whatever, that I would actually try to use the text itself as the particles. So I want to be able to animate the contents of this group and then get it to apply it to the emitter. So for that reason I am going to make a clone of this group. If I use the group, then the animation wouldn't come through. So then let's take that clone and make particles. Let's turn off the original group. So now you'll see that we get this sort of effect. So I'm thinking that that's actually quite useful because we're actually breaking up the text itself. And I think we can work with this. So let us do the following. I wanted to start at frame 20. So I'm going to come to frame 20, and with the emitter selected, I'm going to come to mark and mark in. So we won't see anything for the beginning, and let's just take care of that when we think about it. So I'm going to select that group and make another clone of it, and I'm going to sort of drag it out to the top here, and then I'm going to come to frame 20. And I'm going to come to mark and mark out, and that'll just take care of the front until we get into our particles. So then let's look at our emitter and just set up a basic animation here. So let's come to frame 20. Actually, let's come frame before that. Let's come to frame 19. Let's set a keyframe. Let's set that down to 0. Let's step forward one frame. Let's set this birth rate up to 100, and let's step forward one frame. I'm sure there's a way of doing this without deselecting the emitter, just to step forward one frame. I cannot for the life of me work out what it is. I just don't understand motion, I'm sorry. But anyway, there you go. So that's pretty useless. That's not what we wanted at all. What's gone wrong here? So at frame 20, for some reason when I chose my emitter, and mark in, I don't know, I moved it, I don't know. Anyway, always be on the lookout for this sort of issue. I'm going to come to mark in again, and now that's better. I don't know what happened there, no idea at all. Everything goes wrong when you try to do a tutorial. But this time around, I'm not cutting out the stuff that goes wrong, just so you can see how painful it all actually is. So let us set up the emission range. I think I want something like 120, so I want it to spread out a little bit as it rises. So the emission angle, you see by default that goes off to the left here, by which of course I meant the right. So we need to adjust that, and I think it is positive 90. Yeah, so now we're going upwards like that. So that's a bit better. Okay, let's set up the speed and the speed randomness. Let's go for 150 for both of those, like this. And you can see how that's sort of starting to dissipate. That's quite good. Let's maybe set up the life. Let's go for 8 seconds, I think. Let's, while we're thinking about it, set up the opacity over life. Maybe let's make a tag here just next to the other one. We can set its location to something like 2. Let's select the first one and set that opacity down to 0, so we've got a very quick fade in. Let's make another tag that we drag to the end here and set that opacity down to 0. Maybe have a little bit of life randomness. Let's go for 2. That's probably quite a good idea. So now the particles start to fade off over life. Maybe increase that life randomness up to 3, so we get a greater variation in the life. So smoke is not actually white, so let's give it a color. So color mode, let's choose colorize, and let's for the color choose sort of smoky grey. Where are we? Sort of there, 60%. I don't know, up to you. Let's maybe go with that. Okay, so let's get on to the serious business. What we actually need to do is to try and make this look more like smoke. Don't know why I've got that rogue group there. I probably dragged I dragged the clone out into a new group and it left behind this random group. There's always stuff like this. Doesn't matter how often you use motion, you'll always make mistakes like that. Random group, kill it. Okay, so let's come back to this group here. And I think what we need to do to make it a little bit more smoke-like is to give it some blur. So let's add a Gaussian blur to that group. And let's just animate it. So let's again come to 20 frames on the timeline. Set a keyframe, set that down to 0. Let's come forward to, I don't know, 20, 40, 60 frames maybe. And set this amount all the way up to 64. Why am I still seeing that? I don't know why I'm still seeing that. What is that we're seeing? I don't want to be seeing that. Oh, I think what I need to do is maybe come to the emitter and set, oh yeah, we need to turn off random start frames, don't we? That's a silly mistake. Okay, let's do that. That's why we were seeing those sharp versions, because we were seeing a random start frame in there. But also let's adjust the source frame offset. So I think I'm going to try 10. That's looking a bit better. Maybe we can do a bit more with that Gaussian blur. So let's come to its keyframe. That's frame 60 and set that up to 128. Like this. Okay, so that's looking a bit better. Now, it's still not looking remotely like smoke. I'm going to come over to the library. I'm going to come to generators. I'm going to grab clouds. I'm going to drag it in like this into the background there, and I'm going to turn off this group. And let's carefully label this as displace and a matte. Now the fascinating thing is that although under normal circumstances one is perfectly capable of typing, as soon as it comes to making a tutorial, all your typing skills go out of the window. So another thing to bear in mind. So the clouds, I'm going to just adjust the horizontal and vertical scale, or rather I want to increase the vertical scale, so I'm going to get sort of more elongated look to that clouds. You can't see it yet, but this is going to work, I think. So we're going to use this clouds for two purposes, one of which is we're going to mask this group. Actually, let's call this text source. Actually, let's call this one main text front or something. I don't know. It's hard to think of names for groups, isn't it? I don't know. That'll do for now. Anyway, so where were we? Okay, text source group. We're going to add an image mask to it. So like that. And we're going to take this displace and matte group and we're going to add it to this source. So initially we don't get any difference because the alpha is 100%. So we're going to switch, no, not that. We're going to switch here to luminance. And now you can see, hopefully, that we're getting the text broken up like this. So that isn't quite what I wanted, is it? So the reason for that is that I actually, instead of cloning that group to make my main text front, I should have cloned the original text. So we can do that just by dragging that onto the clone layer like that. That's going to be better. There we go. So then we get this starting to be a little bit more smoke-like, maybe. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this text source and we're going to come to filters and distortion and bump map. And this is where it's going to start to get a little bit more interesting. So we're going to take that displace and matte group and we're going to drop it into the image source well like that. I want to set my direction to be 180 so it distorts upwards. And then let's come to 20 frames again on the timeline. Let's keyframe the amount and set that to 0. Let's come forward to, again, let's try 60 frames. And let's set this amount to 0.5. And now what's happening is that we're getting this sort of smoky displacement like that. So that's looking a bit better. It's not looking grey yet, is it? Let's take this emitter and maybe add some gravity to it. So simulations gravity. And we want negative gravity, so let's maybe try negative 50. How's that working? That'll take the smoke off like that. That's already starting to look a bit better, I think. So what's wrong with this, I wonder? Maybe we need to massage some of these keyframes. So let's select the Gaussian blur and come into the keyframe editor. I'm going to draw around that one and I'm going to hold down the command key and do this sort of thing and take that one there and do that sort of thing. So holding down the command key and dragging obviously turns a linear path into a Bezier path. And I think that's what we want here. That's probably going to be better. Actually, no, I think what we want to do is actually get it to start being blurred very quickly. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? That's better. Okay, let's come back to our bump map. Set the keyframes for this. So let's drag around that one and drag out the handle like that. And just adjust this handle. So maybe an S-curve for that. How's that looking? A little bit better. Let's just clear the keyframe editor. I told you this was going to get boring. It's going to get really boring. I'm sorry. I don't know where I'm going really with this. I have done this quite a few times before, but as you can see, I'm not really getting there just yet. Actually, you know what it needs to do is that mask needs to fade in. So let's do that. Let's come to this group here and let's grab a color solid, drag that in at the top there. So we can make a fade in of this. If we turn this to white, like so, you can see it kills our matte. So if we come back to frame 24, and then we select this color solid, we keyframe the opacity there. Actually, why am I at frame 22? I'm sure I went to frame 20. Did I not go to frame 20? I don't know. You'll probably notice this keeps happening every time I try to go to a specific frame and move on to do something else. The actual frame gets changed. Really, really annoying. I don't know what's going on there. Probably my mouse or something. Anyway, shouldn't be happening. Sorry about that. Let's reset that. Let's keyframe it. I don't think we want very long for this. Maybe go for 30 there and set that opacity down to 0. No, that's not good, is it? No. You can see that it's fading in, that cloud's. I don't think I like that at all. Let's turn that off. Actually, let's turn it back on again. And I just think we need to do it very fast, don't we? Let's come to the keyframe editor. So where are we? We started at frame 20 and we ended up frame 30. Let's select this one and let's do negative 10. Oh no, that's too much, isn't it? Negative 8. So it's just going to happen over 2 frames. Oh no, that's awful, isn't it? Kill the keyframe editor. Why is that popping? I don't know. It doesn't like that, does it? Let's just try turning this group to fixed resolution. Does that make any difference? Nope. Let's try turning this group to fixed resolution. If in doubt, always just try turning to fixed resolution. So this is really going very, very badly, and I'm absolutely thrilled because it shows you just how absolutely useless I am at putting these things together. and I have to continually try and work out what's gone wrong. And I'm going to put you through the pain of seeing how I'm going to fix it. So I just don't think that colour solid idea works. It was working in my temp version. I tell you what I am going to do is I'm going to take this Gaussian blur and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to move it above the bump map like that. And I think that is definitely helping. You can see we're now getting that. It's looking much more smoke-like, I think, because we are blurring the result of the bumped map. Quite like that. I don't know why it's just not getting to where I want it to be as fast as I want it to be. I just think we need to massage that blur again. Let's select the original blur and let's come into the keyframe editor and let's just really make that happen really fast. Is that we haven't got enough? Maybe it's happening over too long. Probably that's it. So let's take this and do -20, enter, so it happens faster. No, still not good. Let's do it again, -20. Oh no. Let's do -10, enter. I think maybe this clone is running on too long. It's running on too long. Why is it running on too long? Because I probably didn't take enough care over it. So I'm going to come to frame 19. With that clone selected, I'm going to come to mark and mark out. Okay, so this is going to be better, I think, because... No, it's not better. No, that really pops now, doesn't it? So maybe we need to go back to actually fading this out a little bit. So let's come forward 1, 2, 3, 4 and mark out. So we've got something to play with. Let's come to properties. Let's keyframe the opacity down to 0. Let's come back to frame 20. Set the opacity up to 100%. See how that works. Okay, yeah, that's sort of better, is it? Yeah, I still don't like the fact that it's just too sharp there. What can we do? Maybe we just need to blur the actual emitter. Let's try that. Let's select the emitter. Come to filters and blur and Gaussian blur. So where are we here? We're come to frame 20, set it to 0, keyframe it, come to frame 24. I definitely want it to be blurred by this point, so let's set the blur to be, there you go, that's going to be better, isn't it? 64, and then I want to come forward a few more frames where we're going to go to, I don't know, 40, and let's just reduce that. Actually, no, it's still quite good, isn't it? Let's reduce the amount down to 20 odd. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that was probably the trick, wasn't it? So we're not seeing that sort of intermediate step that we didn't really like. I think I'm still going to mix it off though, because we're seeing that jump there, aren't we? So mix off this main text, I should say, that cloned text. So where are we? Let's come to frame 20. We have got a fade, haven't we? It's just not long enough, is it? Let's just extend that so we've got plenty to play with. Let's come to frame 50, mark out. Let's come into the keyframe editor and let's just massage that. So where are we? So we're starting our animation of our fade of that at frame 20, and then at frame 24 we finished. Maybe just select that and do +6. No, it's too much, isn't it? -2. No, let's do -1. And let's maybe just do a Bezier handle on that. Again, I was just dragging that, holding down the Command key. I know what we can do. Okay, here, but how about this? So we can select this clone and we can add, well actually let's take the whole group like that and add to it an image mask and use our displace and matte for that and switch to, why do I keep doing that? Switch to luminance. Okay, so now we can actually get that to, I think this is going to work. So I'm going to select the image mask and come to mark in. So we're at frame 20, so that's not going to be masked until that frame. And then what we can do is select the image mask, come to filters and color and levels. And what I want to do, let's just open up the histogram just in case we need to animate this. Yes, so if we take our black out like this, there you go. So our black, if we animate our black out, that's going to be much better, isn't it, than fading it. Let's do that. Okay, so at frame 20, let's set our black out to 1 and keyframe it, and then step forward to, I don't know, 30 and keyframe that down to 0. That's better. It's still not quite right, is it? Oh, you know what else we need to do is we need to blur this, don't we? We need to blur this foreground element as it disappears. So let's select blur, Gaussian blur on this main group here, right? So set the amount down to 0. Let's step forward to there. Where's that? Let's go with 25 and increase that blur so we don't see those edges. There you go. That's it. 64%, 64 for the amount there. And we're not seeing that transition. That's better. Yeah, that's sort of kind of working, isn't it? What else might we do? I'm going to try something. It's probably silly, but let's take this image mask and add a blur to it. No idea if this is going to work. Oh yes, isn't that good? Yes, I think it probably is. It's taking away the detail though, isn't it? I'm not sure. I think we need detail in smoke, don't we? So it's probably better like that, even though that's not great. One thing I did try was to add an underwater to this, and I don't think it really worked, but let's see if I can make it work this time. So this text source group with all those other effects on it, let's use distortion underwater, and you can see the underwater makes it all ripple a bit. I wonder if the trick was to maybe just set the speed down to 0. What's that like? It does sort of disperse it a bit more, doesn't it? Like that. We would need to keyframe that though, wouldn't we? Because we don't want it to look like that. So at frame 20, let us set the refraction down to 0, keyframe it, come forward to maybe 30, have a bit of refraction. Let's go up to 100 and something. See if that is actually making any difference at all. It is actually making some difference. It's kind of swirling it around a bit. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. As I say, this is not really a finished effect. This is a set of ideas for you to play with. My ongoing quest to make this look really good continues. I think I'll stop there. I will actually publish a tidy version of this tutorial, which will probably take about a quarter as long, and publish that shortly. So anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again soon.